Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. French President Emmanuel Macron has tested positive for COVID-19, forcing several European leaders to self-isolate after coming into contact with him. The 42-year-old president was tested after developing symptoms and will now self-isolate for 7 days. His office said he is still in charge of running the country and will work remotely. President of the European Council, Charles Michel, and Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez are among the leaders having to self-isolate. France this week ended a 6-week national lockdown, replacing the measure with a curfew to help deal with soaring cases. A powerful snowstorm is sweeping through the northeastern US with warnings in place for 14 states, affecting more than 60 million people. Some parts of Pennsylvania and New York are predicted to see as much as 60 centimetres of snow. The National Weather Service has warned of dangerous, if not impossible, travel conditions and isolated power surges in the worst affected areas. Officials say they do not expect the storm to disrupt COVID-19 vaccine distribution, which began in the US on Monday.
2, 3.
Sweden's King Carl XVI Gustaf has described 2020 as a terrible year and said the national coronavirus strategy had failed.
Stort antal som har avlidit helt enkelt.
Sweden has been widely criticised for its unorthodox approach to handling the pandemic, relying more on guidelines and no mandatory face mask wearing. Instead of relying on legal sanctions, Sweden appeals to citizens' sense of responsibility and civic duty. The country has never imposed a nationwide lockdown, and most schools, bars and restaurants have remained open. More than 7,800 people have died from the virus. A Kenyan man who attended flight school in the Philippines has been accused of plotting to hijack a plane and fly it into a building in the US. Cholo Abdi Abdullah was arrested on weapons charges in the Philippines last year. Prosecutors have not named which city he allegedly planned to target. According to the FBI, Mr. Abdullah was transferred to the US from the Philippines to face a long list of terrorism offences, including aircraft piracy and conspiring to murder US citizens. Chang E5 space mission has returned to Earth with the cargo of rock and soil it picked up from the moon. A capsule carrying the materials landed in Inner Mongolia at 1:59 a.m. local time. It's more than 40 years since the American Apollo and Soviet lunar missions brought their samples home. The new specimens should provide fresh insight on the geology and early history of Earth's satellite. For China, the successful completion of the mission will also be seen as another demonstration of the nation's increasing capability in space. Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has suggested the United States will remain hostile towards Iran even after President-elect Joe Biden takes office. In the first speech in several weeks, Mr. Khamenei said Washington could not be trusted, a remark indicating a wary attitude towards President Donald Trump's successor. In a meeting to mark the first anniversary of the killing of the military Commander General Qasem Soleimani in a US attack in Iraq, the Ayatollah said American antagonism would not disappear with the end of the Trump administration. And finally, an artefact from ancient Egypt missing for decades has been found in a cigar box at the Scottish University of Aberdeen by a staff member. The find, fragments from 5,000-year-old cedar wood, are thought to have been used in the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Curatorial assistant Abir El Adani said she was delighted to have found the missing artefact. And that's your international news around the world in 5. And now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.